Hello, everyone. Welcome again to our live seminars. I appreciate you guys stopping by. I do want to give some time for more people to fill in. I saw we already had 8 waiting, so I appreciate you guys giving some patience. I know we had an hour extension than our normal time. We're just trying to flirt around with the different times, see which ones are the most, beneficial. Trying to get different time zones involved. So again, I appreciate you guys hanging on for another hour, and maybe we'll get some other individuals. Today, we are going to do things a little bit differently, just going to try something out. It was a recommendation or some advice from a community member. Discord member gave us a little bit of advice of how to run these maybe a little more smoothly or pin target some of the most asked questions or maybe the most relevant at the time. So what we did do is we opened up, a channel was already there for an AMA in our Discord, but what we did is we put a message in there so that anyone that has questions that maybe they cannot make these seminars, they could post their question, and then we'll go through them, hand select some of the ones that we feel we can give the best answers to at this time, and then we'll go from there. From that, if there's time or maybe some other questions that want to be asked in addition to the topics that we're discussing today, feel free to post them in the chat. Either myself will address them. We also have Yan available as well. He should be in the chat. Yep, there he is. So appreciate you guys being here. I am going to post the first question that we selected to discuss in the chat so everyone can read it. And then we will also post the answer in the chat. And I'll also say it out loud. So just so that those that maybe you're just relying on the chat instead of the audio, everyone gets to hear and read the answers. So we will start here. Here's our first question. I'm going to post it real quick. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to read it. So does the PAC team plan on providing APIs so that developers can build bridges to build NFTs from other chains to the network? So that was the question presented to us. Here is Yan's reply on this, and then we can build off of that. Okay, so I'm going to post the answer, and I have to do it in 2 because the it's a little bit long. Doesn't let me go more than 200 characters. Okay. Yen's reply for this question, again, I'll repeat it. Does the PAC team plan on providing APIs so that the developers can build bridges to bring NFTs from other chains to the network? The answer for that, currently, there is no plan of doing this, as our focus is getting our own token system and PAC Protocol blockchain done first. And then that will obviously correlate with yanDNA because of Yan token. Once this has been properly tested and it's released, this opens our door to explore what we can do with the token system besides the use of NFTs. So again, we have kind of hinted on this, not trying to delve in too deep in all the details because we know that it'll just open up floodgates and more questions that we're just not available to answer right now, just because we want to finish what we want to finish first and then provide the documentation so that we have a full-on breakdown of what we're releasing to this network or wanting to release. And then, obviously there'll be some more information there. But yeah, we're super excited for our token system. That's, we've talked about that over these past seminars of what we're at currently in our testnet phase. Maybe Yan, I'll type it in here. Could you elaborate a little bit on where you are at in our in your involvement in our testnet and what we are working on right now as far as our algorithms and checksum values, et cetera? Okay. So Yan, if you could see that, post that question there, just so that we can elaborate a little bit more on our token system and what we're working right now in our current testnet, and then we can build off that if anyone has any questions in the community. While you look at that, I'm going to prepare our next question that we have so that we could go on, because I don't see anyone posting any questions in addition to this. Hi, Caleb. We will get to your questions. Well, more specific questions. I mean, right now I will answer that. I'm most excited about our token layer being released. It's revolutionary for the chain that we are operating on right now. To have that introduction of now that different tokens can be transacted on the network, the support of being able to mint an NFT of your very own on the PAC Protocol network if you decide to. So I'm really excited about those 2 things being pushed live once we get our testnet done. Does the Masternode network also run in the event of a blackout? I mean, that's a kind of a question that, there's a lot of variables to that. If it's a a worldwide blackout, I mean, if there's no electricity providing any resources to the network, I would assume any network would have a moment of silence until that gets fixed. But there's just too many variables to have a definitive answer on that. My answer would be if all the internet and all the power's off and no one has backup resources prepared for that, any network would be susceptible to a worldwide blackout. But that's just my straight answer on that. And so the other part of that, I'll just elaborate on what Ian's talking about. So the metadata that we've been talking about, like not if you don't have your metadata controlled or in your possession, that's what we've been talking about. So Ian's elaborating on that. The metadata contains information such as the download link for the file, the checksum of the file, and any additional immutable information stored. So that's a little bit more information on what that really means down to the wire. So the next question we have here, how do we mitigate the potential negative effects caused by node operators that don't regularly maintain their nodes, such as hardware updates and resource allocation, since I know yanSafe addresses the software side. So again, I'll repeat it. How do we mitigate the potential negative effects caused by node operators that don't regularly maintain their nodes? There we go. Okay, so how do we mitigate the potential negative effects caused by node operators that don't regularly maintain their nodes? So for example, those that are not adjusting their servers or doing the maintenance required, if their POS band score gets to a point where it needs to be addressed. Other events such as kind of mentioned before, power outage, like if you're not paying attention, if your server is actually providing resources or your node is actually connected and doing its job, then there could be some issues where your Masternode is no longer doing the job that it's supposed to be doing. Doesn't necessarily mean it was deliberate. Just obviously, there's a role you have to play as a Masternode operator. You have a responsibility to make sure that it doesn't, go offline. So, answer for this: how do we mitigate the potential negative effects caused by node operators that don't regularly maintain their nodes? Posted answer: we keep improving yanSafe functionality, meaning we also keep improving making it easier for node operators to update their nodes. Mass update Masternode has already been implemented in yanSafe, which to those that do not remember or maybe weren't around at that time, that is a huge feature to be added into something like this. Because if you have multiple Masternodes, you're trying to set them all up at the same time, and or you need to do a repair or a rescan or just anything to multiple nodes. It was difficult to do it. Not only difficult, um, wrong word. It was time consuming. So this feature of mass update Masternodes, where you can do it all at once within your wallet, huge advantage. To elaborate, where you can click one button and all your Masternodes will be updated at once, making it even easier to update. This button was not visible because there was no new mandatory update for Masternodes yet. So again, there are a lot of updates that we have pushed over, the years. Some of them are not considered quote unquote mandatory because majority consensus isn't required. Example of that is maybe some people may be experiencing different bugs inside of their client or whatever the case, and we'll push updates to address those issues for those specific users. But it may not be affecting everyone else because not everyone may be operating a Masternode and or doing the same things that another user does. So that's the difference between quote unquote mandatory updates. What we mean by mandatory is you need majority consensus. So for the update to take effect, it is mandatory that there is a majority consensus reached. Is PAC still on course to opening teaching for programming that was listed on the roadmap? Yes, actually, that's something that we're still building up in the back side of things, more correlated with our business partners and different doors that we have open to us. So it just takes some time. If you think about what's actually involved in teaching programs, you have curriculum that needs to be authenticated, et cetera. And then you also have to have, basically an invitation slot or a teaching slot to be part of a program. So it's something that we have already in the works, but until we're able to elaborate on that, we'll just keep that, as something to just keep in mind. Pay attention to any updates that we post towards that, but it is something that we're not stopping. We have a lot of things tackling at once. And the better we get, the more we'll be able to do those things all at the same time without, this is all the things we want to do, but we got to focus on this first and we get to that later. We will get to everything. It's just bandwidth issues, or not issues, but just capabilities. We're not all superhuman. Okay. I'm going to go to our next question because I don't see any other questions being targeted towards what we just talked about. So I want to cover the questions that we had addressed first, and then we can get to the chat stuff. So I'm not ignoring you guys. I'm just trying to follow a um, new template for running these streams, so that makes sure all the questions that were asked and repeatedly asked, even on our forums, are getting addressed. Because sometimes they're not showing up in these chats. I'm not talking about the individuals, but the questions. Where do I check my Masternode POS score? If you go into yanSafe, you'll see a slot where it says POS band at your Masternode tab, and you'll be able to click the arrow icon on your Masternode entry. So it'll be right within your product. So this next question, here we go. What is the long-term plan to reduce the load on the development team in the event of mass adoption? So it's a very good question, because you have to understand the larger network grows as far as usage, the more individuals using it, the more it brings in more individuals, more customer support, you could say, or just technical support for the different aspects that are coming. With yanSafe alone, PAC app, and all the different plans that we have for the network, token layer, multi-currency support, and our different products, it is definitely something that we have talked about, that we have to make sure that all the developers that we have currently involved are up to speed and able to address any things that could come up in the event of mass adoption. And that's something that we also, like, I try to explain, and it's not, I don't mean it to come off as an excuse, but it's just reality. When we're developing something that is innovative or not done before in our type of network setting, in a network that's this large, everything's like basically brand new. There is no template to just make sure you copy so everything's okay. So that's why when I'm comparing the different aspects of in testnet and fixing bugs and fixing errors, that's why we spend time in there. Not too much time, but we spend a good amount of time in there, because once you go to testnet to mainnet, it's basically like you're jumping into mass adoption. You're going into a testnet that barely has any nodes connected to it, and then you're jumping into a network that has thousands. So there are, different ways that we already mitigate, making sure that what we release is working as how we want it to be and intended. But as far as long-term plan to make sure that our development team is ready to go and everything, it grows. Let me post this answer for you guys here that was prepared, and then we'll go into it. Okay, well, I posted it backwards, so I'll just read it. So when there is mass adoption, it also means that there would be more interested developers wanting to work with us. So I think we know that that's already a fact with us, because I mentioned how our creative design teams have grown, our developers that we have involved in our testnet and our different products all at the same time. It's not just one person. There's multiple people now involved, expressing their interest. We go into kind of like like I don't know how to explain this. Like, we don't ever really get into like interviews and start questioning people, like, what have you done? Like, but we do, I guess, like validation interviews to make sure that these people are, passionate about wanting to be a part of PAC Protocol, or I should say PAC Global Holdings LLC, and our development team. But then also we want to make sure that their talent level is compatible, or not just their talent, but their characteristics are compatible with those that we already have here, so that we have that same, we're a team feeling, not just we're a bunch of developers from everywhere and we're just trying to do something, but we're not really working together. Like, that's not how we have ever worked. Everyone involved, as far as like on the development side and making sure things have come out as we want it to, we're super tight and close. So we just go through that validation kind of interview process, and it does grow. Our team has been growing from that. So when there is mass adoption, it does mean that there would be more interested developers. So we'd have more people to help us greatly reduce our load. That way it can help us, maybe have less bandwidth per person. You have different products that we all know as a community that Yan is like a staple, being a part of the PAC app, yanSafe, etc., yanDNA. And there's other avenues that our team focuses on as well. Some things that may not be personified in the results of like a GUI or like a UI. You might not see all the backend work that gets done because you need a front end to actually access it or appreciate it if you don't know how to read what's being done. So our team is growing. Our workload has been reduced somewhat, individually, as that's happened. But of course, as more interest is brought into PAC Protocol, there will be more developers wanting to build on top of, not only on top of this network, but wanting to be involved, because I think most here are going to be very pleased with this update that we're pushing, especially those that have been here from, like, let's just say day one, and just to sit back and take a glance or a notice of where we were then to what is now available on this network now. A lot of people are going to be, I think, very impressed with it. And that, again, and as Yan mentioned, bring in some more individuals that may want to be part of what we're trying to accomplish here in the long term. Yep. Thank you, Yan, for elaborating on the POS band score. Those that don't know, it's kind of backwards, like golf. The lower your score is, the better. So if you have 0, you're like great. Anything over 0, it basically means like you need to make sure it gets back down to 0. There's maybe something wrong, or maybe the power at that server went down for a little bit, or maybe there's maintenance at the third-party server provider. So POS score 0, it's the best you can ask for. Anything that's going above 0, just pay attention to it and make sure that it gets the maintenance that it needs. If you're here now, we're all PAC OGs. Hey, there are a lot of new people, and not saying it doesn't get appreciated, but if you're new and you weren't a part of the different avenues that we've had to go through to get to where we are, that's just part of the history of PAC. So those that have been here from the beginning, it's really cool to just see not only the size of the network or just the amount of different individuals involved, or just the direction that PAC has in general gone in, always adapting. I don't think anyone could ever argue against that. We've always always want to implement features that are greatly, well liked, I should say, or well desired in the space, but then also realizing that it can lead us into different innovative approaches for other use cases. And I think that's being seen in yanDNA. We didn't just go directly into a token layer for no reason. We wanted to build a use case for it first, and then have the development, coincide with it and complement it. I'm gonna go to the next question. Okay, just posted. So question, I know you said putting a file on yanDNA is like an NFT that can't be altered, but can yanDNA/IPFS technology be capable of working on documents or docs real time and saving them to yanDNA? So this has popped up a couple times, probably very similar to how, well, the comparison is probably using like Google Docs, is what I'm assuming this community member is comparing it to. So here is our responded answer. So again, I know you said putting a file on yanDNA is like an NFT that can't be altered, but can yanDNA/IPFS technology be capable of working on docs or documents real time and saving them to yanDNA? The answer, yes. yanDNA/IPFS is capable of updating a file by simply re-uploading the updated file and then removing the old file. Just a short note, we cannot alter the file content, nor can we see the file without your personal password. So just to make, draw that point home again, we cannot see what's in the file or the updates, or see what's inside the file without having the actual password to it. However, we have the possibility of deleting this file from yanDNA and from Yan Network without needing the password. So basically, like to like further explain that, like, would you be able to edit a document in real time as far as like on Google Docs right now? Like right now, I know we're streaming, but I'm looking at Google Docs right now, and I could edit something and save it, and it's saved, good to go. As far as inside your account, you can open up a document that you have saved, do some edits, whatever, and then re-upload it. When you do that, IPFS is really good for no duplication. So anytime you edit something, it is going to have a different, setting inside of the database. You could delete obviously the one that you edited, and then now all you have is the updated one. That would be a really cool feature that we could maybe pay attention to, as well, that actually goes into our next question, as being able to actively edit and save without having to download the file, edit it, and then re-upload it. That's not something that we're currently working on, but it is something that we're highly interested in. So I'm just going to post this question because it kind of goes right in hand with what was just talked about. Okay, so I'll just repeat that last question because I kind of mumbled them together. because they were very related. Can or will yanDNA support actively editing and saving without having to download the file, edit it, and then re-upload it back to yanDNA? So again, currently not working on that exactly, but it's something that is on our feature to the interested list of supporting live editing of the files in yanDNA without requiring to download the file to edit it. So it's not something that's being worked on right now, but it is on our feature list of something we want to implement. I see one question. Would other projects be looking to adopt IPFS tech from PAC? IPFS technology wasn't, introduced or invented by PAC Global Holdings LLC. It is an open source technology created by, I forget the exact lab, but IPFS it's its own. So there are different projects that already have adopted IPFS technology to, direct uh, towards different use cases and needs. We've obviously altered it and adopted it and made changes to it to fit the use cases that we want. So that's just the beauty of having access to open source programming, being able to adopt it for different needs. And what we have talked about in the past seminars, if you just look at IPFS without even having a basic understanding of any technology, just view it as the backbone of it's just a database. It's a database, being able to upload something to it and receive something back from it. So yep, that's right, Protocol Labs. So Protocol Labs was the one that invented IPFS technology, and they have their own use case storage applications. I believe Filecoin is also from Protocol Labs using IPFS technology. The way that it's used over there is just it's different than how we've adopted it. But obviously, overall, the advancement of IPFS technology, it's called interplanetary filing system for a reason, because it's kind of looking towards that futuristic aspect of, we need to have better redundancy, better bandwidth for receiving files on different planets, interplanetary. So that was kind of the vision behind it in the beginning stages, I would assume, to kind of mitigate the current problems that they have. Like we gave examples of this, and you could even research it yourself. Just look at the amount of data that is required or needed to get a full, like, actual great visual, great quality picture of outer space of a galaxy and have it sent from a satellite to Earth. Takes a long time, A, and B, it's a ton of data. So there are ways that that can be improved. And then obviously that's not the only reason that it's going to be implemented, but if you just look at it as a database and it's capable of scaling at a rate that isn't just controlled by one entity, it's revolutionary, something cool to be a part of. And I think we can see that with just blockchain technology in general. Go back to 2009 with Bitcoin's creation, and look where we are now. You can see how that technology has been adopted to build this industry as big as it has. I feel very confident that IPFS is definitely going to be a part of that, because you need to have data. You need to have a data part of that network that is capable, of transmitting legitimate amounts of data in a quick way, in a secure way. Bitcoin is, obviously used for its own reasons, mainly financial, and it accomplishes the job. But are you able to upload a large file and send it from point A to point B? And if you are, is it going to be costly, or is it going to be inexpensive? It's not really built to be, a data transference as far as like MP4 files or movie files or anything. It's not really made for that. Can it be adopted and used in that way? Yes, there are different projects that have used the Bitcoin chain to, for example, uh, put a picture on the chain. It's happened on different chains, but it's just not, it doesn't scale. It's not really usable, if that makes sense. So that's why I honestly really feel that IPFS being tagged along into a scalable network and pushing that kind of use case and solution, if you give the right education and you give the right, you know, products that are easy to use, not complicated, and basically step by steps yourself into it, I feel like it's going to be a very successful event. Yan, do you want to elaborate on that question there in the chat? This is what I was mentioning before we got on live. I knew that was going to be needed to be elaborated because it's a little confusing on how we worded that. The question, so you, not the user, can delete files from yanDNA. Yes, you, the user, can delete your own files from yanDNA. I'll let Yan elaborate a little bit more on what he was talking about there. But essentially what we are meaning by that is, when you look at IPFS, it's a database, right? So files are uploaded to something, and what is Yan token going to be used for? It is to reserve X amount of data space or storage. In the event that files need to be deleted, say you're going over your amount of storage that you have, or you're about to, or it doesn't let you because you're going to go over, and you want to delete certain files. You're interacting, on the product. You're selecting to delete it, and then it also has to be done on the database. So I'll let Yan elaborate more on that, so that he can give a full answer on that. But maybe that's something that we can go into a little bit more once the product comes to full release. Because like I said, we're going to have more documentation that will be able to really explain everything as it needs to be done. Just to elaborate a little more, it's something that Yan messaged me earlier, so maybe I'll just read it off to you guys. It gives a really good explanation. So when we're talking about deleting files that we can't access the content or any things like that, but about fighting against illegal content, we do have checksum values on every file, and there will be a checksum value of every file. So while we can't see what the content is, we'll have might have the possibility to detect an illegal file if we have the checksum, value of the illegal file. So as an example, someone uploading a movie, obviously probably not the creator of the movie, for example, maybe Harry Potter, it creates its own checksum value. So we wouldn't know what that file is based off of that value, but it's kind of like a fingerprint. If makes it a little easier to understand. You leave a fingerprint on something, uh, you copy that and re-upload it somewhere else. It's the same checksum value. It's going to be the same fingerprint. So even though you won't be able to read exactly what that content is based off that checksum value, you can compare it and be like, oh, well, it's the same thing. So that's where, in the event that someone was trying to do something like that, a scammer, or just using illegal content, it can be removed from the network without the user being the one that physically clicks delete. But again, to reiterate, cannot view the content, cannot access the content. Only through the checksum values can it be removed from the database. And that one answer earlier that was getting cut off, and I just didn't see the first half of it. That was my fault. We were just reiterating the current involvements in testnet and where we're at. Yan's full reply on that was he's working on the system where you can store the metadata into the Yan network. The Yan network is our IPFS network for the token system. So that metadata, again, it contains the information such as the download link for the file, the checksum value of the file, and any additional immutable information that needs to be stored. So that's what we push forward in a lot of our educational, maybe tweets or press releases or et cetera, talking about metadata. A lot of people might not even realize what that is or even care. But it's important that that information, you are having that opportunity to store it on your own within your own account, to where you do not have to rely on the fact that if the chain were to not have that data anymore for whatever reason, it's irrecoverable. So that's why we feel this is a super amazing advancement in PAC protocol and NFT support, just across the space in general. Hi, it would be interesting to see the layout of the new site if you can post screenshots on Twitter or Telegram. Yeah, no, as of right now, it's not at that point to where we can do that, but we are eager to be able to share what it's going to look. So as soon as that happens, I believe we're in phase 4 out of 5 phases. And at that point, we may be able to bring in the full design on it and showcase a little bit of, what it's going to look like. But it's unique, that's why we have these different designers kind of tackling our ideas, incorporating it into the site of how we want it. And then we'll make some edits or changes or tweaks before we decide it's ready to go. Ed Mill, is 2022 the year of major milestones being reached? Not talking about price action, just partnerships and PAC protocol exposure with partnerships and use cases. Absolutely. I would be paying attention to this year as far as just the different things that we get involved in. Not only that, but just look at what we did last year. We're not slowing down. We fast paced. So we did a lot in 2021, regardless of the bumps in the road or the different restrictions that were applied across the world, different events that were canceled that we were planning on being a part of. It just happens, but we did still do a lot. And this year is the year that I'm, most excited about, where the big partnerships that I'm proud to be a part of or bring here. It's going to be really cool. And just when you guys see those things and see the different use cases that are coming to PAC, because of us setting it up the way that we have, I know it's taken time, but good things take time. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys being here. If you guys have any questions, maybe save them for our next seminar, or you could post them in the directed channel in our Discord for the AMAs. That way we have a couple questions that we could dwell over until our next seminar, come up with some answers that we feel are satisfying and lead into maybe some more discussions. So you can leave your questions here for next time, or again, go to that Discord and post them there. So again, appreciate everyone for stopping by. Thank you, Yan, again, for clearing up time. Thank you, everyone, for giving us a little bit of patience. We started the stream about an hour later than normal, just messing around with different times and seeing how many different people we can get in here, because we got questions being posted in different languages, so I have to assume there's people from different parts of the world that have different time zones. So Anderson, I do see your question, not ignoring you. I would direct you to either go into our Discord and open a ticket, or you could email our support desk. Either one of those methods will get you right in front of someone that can help you directly. So I appreciate you coming here for the seminar, and maybe we'll catch you next time as well. Jeff, thank you again. Thank you for stopping by. Yep, Kuhn is a very cool cat. Provided me with this hat as well. Backpack, my blanket behind me, this jacket. I got a whole, I don't think I can go most places without being around all my PAC stuff, but I love it, so I appreciate it. Anyways, again, enjoy your rest of your day and talk to you soon. Peace.